January 10th, 2024 City of Edina Planning Commission meeting. Hope you had a good set of holidays and a happy new year. And here we are, we're back at it. On behalf of the rest of the Planning Commission, we welcome you. We're grateful you're here in person, and for those tuning in remotely, I say it every time, but your curiosity and participation and feedback is vital to this process as we navigate change together here in Edina regarding the way in which we'd like to use our land. The Planning Commission is made up of volunteer residents like yourselves, appointed by the City Council. So we make decisions, but mostly recommendations regarding land use. We represent a large array of backgrounds, expertise, perspectives, and passions that really help, in my opinion, provide some confidence to the community that we are watching your backs and we're focused on the future. So tonight we have one public hearing. We have some new instructions. So in case you've tuned in before, we have a new number for which you are to call and access code. So for those who'd like to provide testimony remotely, if you'd like to get ready, you can do so by calling the following number, 312-535-8110, and enter access code 2631-642-0716. Oh, and the password is 5454. And when you'd like to get in the queue to speak, press star 3. Is that enough? It's a lot. So we'll probably have that up on the screen for you to follow later. I'll repeat it again once we get to the public hearing. Just so you know, the city's committed to collecting your feedback, and we do so most effectively through our engagement website, which is bettertogetheredina.org. If you've provided commentary before, you don't need to provide testimony tonight, but we welcome you to do so if you'd like to. And regarding what to expect, we will start with a call to order, a roll call, approve tonight's agenda and the prior meeting's minutes, followed by community comment, which is your chance to speak about a matter not on tonight's agenda. And then, as I mentioned, we have one public hearing. And then we follow that with chair and member comments, staff comments, and adjournment. So without further ado, we'll call the meeting to order. And roll call.
Commissioner Felt.
Here.
Commissioner Miranda.
Here.
Commissioner Padilla.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Schultz.
Here.
Commissioner Day.
Here.
Commissioner Strauss.
Here.
Commissioner Bornstein.
Here.
Chair Bennett.
Here. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of tonight's meeting agenda. So I'd welcome a motion.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. So moved. Next, we have the approval of the prior meeting minutes from December 13th, 2023. If anyone has any comments or proposed modifications, now the time, or welcome a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. So moved. All right, next we have the community comment period. As I mentioned, this is your chance to speak about a matter in person, not on tonight's agenda. So if anyone is here and would like to speak about that, please come forward to a podium. You got 3 minutes. I saw one head shake to the side, and that's the only head in here, so we will move along. So we have one public hearing tonight, and the process for that, which we'll follow, is staff has provided a report, and they will provide a presentation to us, the Planning Commission. We'll respond with some questions, comments, and then we open it to the applicant to provide either a presentation or opportunity to answer questions. And then we will open it to a public hearing, which is your chance to speak about this matter tonight. And once we close that, we bring it back to the Planning Commission to deliberate and make a recommendation for approval or denial. And without further ado, we got Planner Ocker here to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is a front yard setback variance request for 4603 Merrill Lane. The subject property is located on the north side of Merrill Lane, where this red dot is. The property owners are hoping to add on to their existing home. This is a survey of the existing home with the addition showing to the west. They would like to add garage space and then living space above. The property owners actually have submitted a permit application, and that's been sitting in Project Docs, our electronic system, since late October. Because there's been other things going on with the permit in terms of information that had to come in, but also planning did indicate that we needed to know what the front yard setback requirement was for the property, because any addition to the house would have to maintain the front yard setback requirement. In this particular instance, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Merrill Lane, it's a kind of a curved street. The homes along the north, the ones at the end of the cul-de-sac, are very far back from the street. The zoning ordinance requires that the front street setback shall be the average front yard setbacks of the dwelling units of the two abutting lots, or the average on the block. Unfortunately, in this situation, the required front yard setback is 116.4 feet, which is much further back than where the original home was built. So this highlighted area is actually the required front yard setback. The buildable area of the lot is this triangular area here. There's a 25-foot rear yard setback and a 10-foot side yard setback. So virtually the entire house is non-conforming based upon the city's requirements. So this proposed addition has been on hold given that they have to go through the variance process in order to address the very deep front yard setback based on the ordinance requirements. So on the one side of the illustration here are some photographs of the existing house with no addition on the side, and then also renderings of what it will look like from the street once they add on the garage addition with the living space above. On the left of the screen is the existing lower level where the garage is, and then this is showing that same floor plan to the right that of the screen that shows that addition, garage addition, and then there will be expansion of living space above. They will be also remodeling the interior of the house, and you'll notice on those renderings that they're also putting new windows in, probably some siding, painting, general improvements to the house. And then this is the existing bedroom level. They would be expanding that over that garage, new garage area, not by the entire extent of it, but just extending the existing space. So this would be the rear elevation, showing you that addition going to the west if you're facing south, and then also the west elevation that's facing the neighbor closest to the west. So the variance is justified in staff's opinion. The variance would be in harmony with the general and purpose intent of the ordinance. The purpose intent of the ordinance is to maintain a consistent front yard setback along an established block. In this situation, there is a consistency if you go further west along the block. This house actually, when you look at it, it's virtually behind the house, the closest house to the west. But by virtue of where that adjacent house is located, it's sort of a neck lot further back in, it throws off the average and certainly does affect the subject property. The variance is needed to address the established average front yard setback requirement, given that the home to the east is about 200 feet deep. It meets all of the other requirements. The property is relatively unique in that it's on a block with one home having that extreme front yard setback as compared to the other homes fronting the north side of Merrill Lane. The subject property must include the front yard setback of the adjacent neighbors. We couldn't just average the ones that are to the west. You have to also include the one that is adjacent to the east. So it has to be addressed through a variance situation. And the proposed addition will be located behind the most affected neighbor to the west, their garage. It's a detached garage. I mean, the house is the existing house is almost behind the most affected neighbor that's directly to the west. The addition will blend in with the existing structure and would be difficult to detect as an addition once complete. Staff recommends approval of the 56.3-foot front yard setback variance from the 116.4-foot requirement to allow a room addition 60.1 feet from the front lot line. Approval is subject to the findings indicated on the staff report. Approval is subject to the following conditions: the consistency with the plans included in the January 10th, 2023 Planning Commission packet and date stamped December 5th, 2024, compliance with the engineering's memo, and then also compliance with the requirements of the tree preservation ordinance. And with that, I will answer any questions you may have. The property owner is here available for questions.
Thank you, Chris. Look to fellow planning commissioners. Yeah, Commissioner Strauss.
Thank you. Planacker, yeah, that screen, the picture you have up is fine. So what properties determined, I mean, maybe you can just kind of point out, I mean, we met this same situation on cul-de-sacs or curved streets, whatever, and there's really nothing straightforward. So, but I'm just, curious for which homes actually determined.
Sure. They actually have two choices. This house is not included. It's at the very end of the cul-de-sac. It would be this house that's directly to the east, which is the 200 feet actually is where they're at. And then the house that's directly to the west, they can either average those two or average them all along the side of that side of the block between intersections, although the one that's the furthest to the south is actually facing south. I believe that's along Mate Lane, so that one is not included. But in either instance, it wasn't to the advantage. They still needed a variance, and it was a deep setback variance. So usually you're able to have some opportunities with either or in the ordinance, but in this particular situation, it doesn't help them.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Day.
So just to be clear, this was determined by the properties to the east and the west, directly to the east and west, the 116 feet?
Correct.
Okay. Do we know what the number is if we take into account the average of everything on the same side of the street?
It doesn't help them. Doesn't help them by much.
Okay. Looks like the resident knows, but.
Yeah, so I took all the other houses along to the west. The next, I took the averages of the other 5 houses to the west, and they are 34 feet, 40 feet, 33 feet, 53 feet. So, but then the one to the east is 198 feet. So it really skews the average, and we're at 60 feet. So we are still behind all the other houses. It's just that one that really is throwing the average off on the whole block.
Do we know when was this ordinance put into place?
It predates me, and
Okay. I'm just wondering in relation to the construction of 4602 and why that was allowed to have such a deep setback.
This one here? You
Yes.
can go back as far as the rear yard setback if you decide to build your home as deep on the lot as you want, but it throws everybody else's setback off.
Okay.
Or it can.
Well, that's what I wanted to establish, right? Is that somebody else can do something that therefore then puts everybody else in a bind.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Thank you.
Also, I live in the neighborhood currently, actually across the street, and the neighborhood had large acreage lots at one point, I think back in the 50s, 15, 20-acre lots. They divided those and separated them off. So some houses are set way far back, and then others are kind of like more of a smaller lots, 1-acre lot, 2-acre lots. So there's some of them that you can see that are quite old, and then there are newer ones.
Yeah. Commissioner
I
Felt.
did pull up Hennepin County's property tax information page so I could see the adjacent lots, and that really helps. I mean, this lot is 1/4 the size of the one to the east, the three. I mean, they're incredibly deep lots. They look like they're over 300 feet deep. That would have really helped on this image, I think. And even that next image helps too, because it shows the adjacent houses. The one without the image without all of the foliage.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's showing the subject and then the one that's,
Okay.
and what it's difficult to see though is that it's kind of a neck lot. It's way back from.
That light green line keeps going back. You've got
Yeah.
there's a tennis court or some court back there that's still not at the rear of the property line.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll give an opportunity to the applicant if you want to come up, assuming that's you since you've been speaking. Otherwise, you're a very informed resident. Just introduce yourself, full name, address.
Yep, my name's Kerry Haig. I live at 2 Mary Lane, which is, I can go right back to the map here. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I live at this house right here. And we have a really long driveway, and my property actually goes, we're not even halfway. So they are really deep. It's probably a 600-foot deep lot. So, yeah, the numbers skew. And I know that this house right in the center just was finished construction. So this house sits closer to the street than both my house and, what is the address of this one? This one. So I don't know if they had to have a variance as well, but they're sitting still far back, but they're closer than both neighboring properties. And I couldn't look up on the city's history if they had to have a variance for theirs. But yeah, like I said, it's these houses all along here are sitting anywhere from 34 feet to 53 feet. And ours is going to be at 60 feet at the closest point, and we're still not coming any closer than it currently exists. We're still sitting back than the front wall.
I don't know if you have a presentation or if you want to just answer any questions we might have.
Yeah, I don't have a presentation,
Okay.
but
Any questions from commissioners? Yeah.
My only question is there any feedback from any of the neighbors? I didn't see any on Better Together Edina.
I just spoke to the neighbor at 4604 today, and she said it looks beautiful. They're excited.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you. We will open this now for a public hearing. As I mentioned before, there's 2 ways to provide testimony here, either remotely or in person. Not seeing anyone else here in person, so I'll give the info for those who might be tuning in remotely once again. Please call 312-535-8110. Good. Now enter access code 2631-642-0716. Good. The password is 5454. All right, got it. Now press *3 on your telephone keypad to get in the queue to speak. And we'll give it about a minute because there's a delay in this broadcast. And we'll check back in and see if anyone's in the queue.
Nobody has joined our queue to speak, so I think it's safe to proceed.
All right, since no one's there and no one is here, I would welcome a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. So moved. Public hearing is closed, and now we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission to deliberate. Yeah, Commissioner Miranda.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, I think this ordinance makes sense only in the context of, a typical suburban development with same-size lots that are shaped the same way, sized the same way, sort of thing. So when you've got lots like this that are, as you pointed out, that are so wildly different in size, the whole logic falls apart. And so I think this is a perfect example for exemption for this. Thanks.
Welcome any other comments or even a motion.
Well, just one comment. I mean, I agree. I think this is the perfect example of, why we're here to kind of grant variances for things like this. And I do appreciate that they're remodeling the home. It's a 55-year-old home, remodeling it rather than tearing down and sensitively doing it. So I'm in support of this variance.
Thanks.
So I move to approve the variance.
Second.
Any comments? Otherwise, we'll just go to a motion. Or to, I guess, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Good luck with the project. Thank you. All right, well, that was as quick as I think we all thought it would be. Not all variance requests are necessarily that straightforward, and this one definitely was. All right, moving to the next item on the agenda, we have chair and member comments. I guess one thing I would request, I was unable to make the work session that preceded this one, and we're talking about ADUs and drafting an ordinance to put before the city council. So if anyone has an update regarding how that went and any other comments, welcome them.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I just have a couple comments. So what happened today, the Planning Commission, we had a quorum, we met, we reviewed and continued our discussion on ADUs. Very good discussion. Everybody chimed in on their thoughts, feedback, good collaboration. There were some sticking points around, setback requirements, et cetera, but we worked through that in a really logical way. And really, this was a build-up over many, I think, cycles where the team got to deliberate and have a conversation. I think over the last year, we've done a lot of work engaging the city residents for their feedback, input, and really sharing and promoting what an ADU is, right? So we did a lot of forums and such. So it certainly was a journey. And I think we finally, today got to a point where we cut through as much of the key items, the discussion points that we wanted to, and we got to a good resolution on most questions. And so I thought it was a really good accomplishment, and I want to thank the team for doing that. The next steps now, right, is that we want to make sure and get residents to see it. So I think there's going to be a couple of things from what I understand, and you guys could correct me. The first one is more of an internal review by the planning team, including the city attorney, to make sure the language looks right, everything looks nice and tight. And then the planning team is going to bring it to the formal meeting with the planning commission for us to officially vote on it. And I think during that time as well, they're going to put it out there for public input. So residents would have a shot at looking at what the ordinance looks like and give us additional feedback on what our final resolutions are. Once that's done, and if we agree, it's going to then go to the city council to weigh in and give their feedback on it as well. And I think that's as far as I think we could see. And depending on what they think, it could determine what path we take next. Either we take it back into conference and we try to work it through, or they agree and then it moves forward into an official new ordinance that we have for the city. So a lot of great work, a lot of good steps. We got a lot of feedback, including yours, Jimmy, that you emailed. We did talk about that. So I feel like everybody's voice was heard. And so it was a really good process, and we're now in that final stage now of trying to wrap things up and get it to our final review by the city council. So a lot of good work and good progress.
Awesome. Any other comments from anyone about either that or anything else pertinent to land use or anything you're passionate about here? Yeah.
Yeah. So as we all know, we had either an approved or almost approved work plan, and then things got changed as the city council added a small area plan to our work plan. So I'm in the unenviable position of having 3 committees that I'm chairing right now. So I think we need to think about having someone else take over, or other people take over chairing the parking committee, because I can't do that with my 2 new requirements heading the Lincoln and Londonderry small area plan, as well as the areas of change in the city. So I think we need to have somebody else step up and take that.
Yeah, we can talk about that now for sure. So maybe remind us too of what groups comprise that, right? It's not just planning commission led, there's other commissions.
So it's led by planning,
Okay.
but the work plan item calls for input from Energy and Environment and the Transportation Commission. So there's been 2 members from each of those commissions attending meetings. So so they've had input too. But we're primarily responsible for it. So it's our deliverable, so to speak. They provide input to the final process.
And where are we at in that process currently?
So we've had several meetings in the fall. We were supposed to have another meeting yesterday, but like I said, I need to push back and work on my other priorities for the year. So we haven't had a meeting yet this year, but we've had 3 or 4 in the fall.
So I guess one thing we'd want to do is, just help you out and then spread the burden. And one other thing to consider too is we're down a planning commissioner, which we haven't discussed. Usually the process is to fill that in March when the typical appointments happen. But maybe we could move to kind of push that process earlier, get another person on board to then help, unless there's someone here that would be willing to jump in. Yeah, Jerry.
It's also probably even more important with Lou needing to sort of remove himself, and I really only have 1, maybe 2 meetings left. So one thing about the work on this parking plan, I think it's all known and done. I mean, it's sort of, because we were almost there and then we got pulled back. So there won't be a real deep learning curve. I mean, the stuff is prepared, and now it's just getting it into a final form. And so, I mean, I don't think it's going to require a great deal of background work, just kind of get up to speed. But like I said, both Lou and I will not be there.
So I guess keeping that in mind, if no one is like able or to show interest right now tonight, let's just keep it on people's minds and we'll revisit this next meeting. I'll get in touch with the planning staff and see what we can do, because we are down a commissioner, and we'll have someone backfill you when you're done, Jerry, serving all 3 terms in 2 months or so.
And Addison was the city staff. And
Okay.
he's he's been in that process for a couple of years, so he's very familiar with all the material. So you can and there is a lot of material prepared, PowerPoints and all sorts of.
Well, thanks for sharing, Lou. I don't know if I'm hearing anything right now. It's kind of crickets, and that's okay, because we did have a lot on our work plan, especially with the addition of the small area plan. So I'm kind of thinking maybe it makes sense we revisit this next meeting, but maybe it just kind of sits for a couple months till we get another set of hands on the team that doesn't have anything on their plate where they could kind of jump in. So we'll just keep that in mind also with maybe who we select or who we recommend for selection, if there's an ability to do so when the city council appoints the next 2. Cool, thanks. Anything else? Anyone?
That could even be a question that they ask, when they're, would you be willing to take this kind of thing on?
Oh, great.
Because everybody here is already committed, super sympathetic. I mean, I actually would volunteer myself to do it if I didn't know that I had work and personal life burdens that are probably going to prevent me from doing that this year, especially in the next 6 months. But it's a totally reasonable question to ask the new person. Everybody else on this commission's on a committee. Can you agree to take this on for this year? It seems to make then everybody's doing something. So
great.
Yeah,
that's perfect feedback. Anything else outside of those work plan items or ADUs? Thanks a lot. So we'll move on to staff comments. Oh, that's a no. So then we have one final item, and wow, I don't know if I've sat through this short of a meeting ever.
Move to adjourn?
Yeah, move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Lots of seconds. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. So moved. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.